Chair, I have direct, straight questions. One, PS, in your presentation, you state that the revenues up to the time you presented, 8th of April, have gone up by 3.5%. Inflation is 4.1%. So in real terms, therefore, our revenues have actually gone down in real terms if you discount inflation from the nominal growth of revenue. So in your assessment as the National Treasury, are the taxes of 2023 and last year worth it? And especially given the debate they generated, but clearly through the figures you have presented, there is actually no revenue from those taxes. Secondly, you have stated that you project the revenues as they were stated at 3.3 trillion shillings. I would want to know the kind of how much GDP are you calculating with? Because in your own figures, the GDP I have seen hovering around 18 to 19 trillion, then the 17.2% benchmark you've put on yourself is actually 3.9 trillion, not 3.3. So because most of our decision making will be based on the GDP, how much GDP are you dealing with in terms of this financial year? The other issue I asked the chairman for, you interact a lot with our committee and finance, housing levy. And chairman, forgive me, I'm asking because this presentation is basically more economic. I mean, there is very little budget in terms of what they are seeking. It's more macro, so I'll be finishing soon. In terms of housing levy, your own data shows that construction sector in Kenya went down last year, actually contracted. Given the housing levy that is being deducted, yourself, I mean, your opinion, don't you think this money was better off in private pockets than when we give it to government? And especially given the reason to which we give this money, which is construction, actually shrunk. Securitization is the other question. I want to add on the questions that have been asked. And I have reservations actually around securitization. It's good I make that clear early. One, how much money are we borrowing? Secondly, what percent, that, for what duration? By the time of maturity, how much will you have paid for the entire amount? And then on that securitization, supposing now PS, when you are PS for the National Treasury, you came into your position and your predecessor had securitized all the revenues of government. And the other question on that, is this money debt? And if it is debt, is it in the books of government as a debt? If it's not a debt in your treatment, what would happen if a new CS for transport comes and issues a gazette notice that removes the 7 shillings? The fallback position is debt. And if it is guaranteed, is it in the government books? Those are the questions I'd want around securitization. As I go to the finish, today's newspaper is glaring, and if you actually go into the pages, there is an attempt to clear the air on the usage of NHIF pension money and CPF pension money in aid of infrastructural development. Honorable PS, honestly, why would we put the workers of Kenya in such a hotline? The expressway you already have, and you have the accounts, they made a loss last year. And then we are here pressuring the pension funds, and especially NSSF and PCF, to invest in a project or in nature of projects that I have shown in the past they are not attractive in terms of their commercial viability. Is it prudent that the NSSF invests pension money in infrastructure projects, and especially given the example we already have is making losses? Privatization is the other one. I saw there is an attempt to privatize some of the government assets, and especially Safaricom. I would want to know what is the timeline. Because as you know, Bwana Kibet, I'm sure you are very well versed in that, and especially given you're also a director in Safaricom. The current trading, for example, for Safaricom, given a bear market, cannot be the right time for privatizing Safaricom. What is the valuation of Safaricom in terms of privatization, are Kenyans getting value for money? Very lastly, please, PS, when you go back to the office, this is my request. Go and do a memorandum to this committee. The same way you have requested some additional expenditure, please do a memorandum. One, the budget that you are making is short in terms of capitation money, has no 6 billion for examinations. Basically, we are just budgeting, knowing we are going to increase our deficit later. Let us include the critical fundings now, examination, capitation. Please do a memorandum of including 3.8 billion shillings for UHC healthcare workers, Honorable PS. The entire 8,571 for their confirmation to permanent and pensionable. In a budget of 4.2 trillion, 3.8 trillion is barely just 1% of that money. Actually less, 0.1% of that money. And also include the amount for village elders. For our village elders to be paid around 8,000 a month, you just require less than 10 billion shillings, which is money you can afford as a national treasury to write a memorandum to us. And also, please, the decision that was made through the finance bill in terms of agricultural produce, these are very important issues. We cannot afford to move agricultural inputs from zero rated to exempt, because as we talk now, Uga prices is in its highest prices for the last 18 months. And especially given we already have subsidy in fertilizer, we cannot afford to increase the cost of agriculture. Thank you very much, Honorable Chair.
Very well. This issue of 1/4, one line for Auditor General.